For our guest, I'm Brother Garland Mance. So grateful as an opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Can I get an amen? Can we please bow our heads for prayer? Dear Father, we thank you for this opportunity, Father. We thank you just for being here in this, Father. Father, I ask you to just help me today to just be a servant, to prick someone's heart, to let them see your word, to see how powerful you are, to see how great you are, and to know that you can cover everything that we need, Father. Father, I ask you to just bless this church, continue to watch over us. We ask this in your son's name we pray. Amen. It's been, when you get asked to do something like this, I kind of have a pulse around congregation, even though I'm in and out, do the work, but it was a tough subject that I chose, what the Lord chose. Wow. It's a subject we don't really like to deal with, how we face it every day. Over the last couple of years, it's hit everybody in this church in some shape, form, or fashion. To be honest, I'm still struggling with it today. And I think that's why God wants you to talk about these things, because if you don't deal with problems straight on, you run. The devil has you. He has you in the palm of his hand versus God having you in the palm of his hand. So the subject we'll be talking about today is dealing with grief as a child of God. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he should direct your path." He read that earlier. Do we really follow that? Do we really think about that? Do we really trust God that much to allow him to run our lives, or do we want to run? Something to think about. Subtext I want you to kind of think about too. I'm going to have my brother Dick and Carrington, he actually read this at Thursday night Bible class. We did a duo together. Bible class is pretty unique for you guys that, as Pastor said, you missed it. So, Brother Carrington, you read that. Matthew 5:4.
Amen. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 4 reads, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted."
As you see, he memorized it. He didn't even know the Bible. That's powerful. The definition of grief that a man gives us, not the Lord, a man, is a normal, natural experience, a natural reaction to a loss or a change of any kind. The medical definition of grief, the normal process of reacting to loss. The loss may be physical, such as death, socially, such as divorce, occupational, such as a loss of job. The emotional reaction to grief can be included anger, guilt, anxiety, sadness, despair. The physical reaction to grief can include sleeping problems, change in appetite, and probable illness. There's 5 stages to grief. Denial, isolation. This ain't happening. This can't be happening. Anger. I'm upset with the loss. God, why did you take them from me? Why am I divorced? Bargaining. If I only had sought out medical attention sooner. If someone would have gave us a second opinion. If I only would have tried to be nicer to those persons sooner. Depression. There's 2 cases with that. Sadness, regret for loss. And we have to say goodbye to a loved one or something. Acceptance. We don't come to grips with the loss. We just try to move on. So I ain't really accepted that my father passed. Because to be honest with you, if you want to be candid, I ain't been back to the house since he passed. So we want that. So we all suffer with this. It's to a point I'm ready now, but that's the God. These 5 stages of grief are characteristics of one person. I want you to sit back and think about who that person may be. Satan. Now the key to all this, those things that I just read you, is how can God combat Satan? And as a Christian, as a leader, talking about just giving the word, you just can't give words and don't have the Bible to back it up. Because now, and precept to precept is not even. You're just talking for what you feel, not what the Bible says. So with those 5 things I gave you, denying and isolation, this happens. This can't happen. If you read Romans 8:28, it states, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who call according to his purpose. So God combats that. 2, anger, upset with the loss. Why me? This ain't right. James 1:19 through 20. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen. I'm dealing with a situation right now where anger, they ain't listening, they ain't caring, they just going. And it's grief, it's the devil. It's a demonic spirit. Slow to speak, to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Bargaining. If anyone sought out the attention of other medical attention, thought he got a second opinion, thought I got closer to that person, we would have got it diagnosed earlier. Isaiah 55:8-9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways, declared the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are the ways higher than the ways of my thoughts or your thoughts. Can't control God. He sees everything. You can't bargain with him. Everything he does is for a reason. Sometimes we have to accept that. Depression. The first, sadness and regret for a lost one. The second one is tough. We have to say goodbye. Matthew 11:28. Come to me with all your labor and the heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Acceptance. What does come to grips with the loss to move on? Revelation 21:4. God will wipe away every tear from thy eyes. There should be no more death, nor sorrow, nor cry. There should be no more pain, from the former things have passed away. So what does that show you? I gave you those 5 stages that you go through when you're going through death. And you may sit back and say, I think everybody can think about it and say, I've been through each one of those stages at some different time. So when that happens, you have a combat now. I'm trying to give you some weapons. Not weapons that a man would give you, a psychologist. Well, come and sit on my couch. I'm going to tell you how you should feel. You should feel this way. I want to give you something that the Lord said that's tangible, that you can hold on to, that you can pray about, you can read about, and you can see God work in your life. How do we handle grief? Turn to God, not away from God. You turn away from God, the world has you. The devil has you. Satan has you. Now you take a chance of some things that can happen that you don't really want to happen. And God doesn't want to happen to you. Job 1:20. Then Job arose, tore off his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground and worshiped the Lord. Psalms 62:1-2. Truly my soul silence and waits for God. For him comes my salvation. He's only and my rock and salvation. He's my defense. I should not greatly move. The Bible's telling you God is there for you. If you read it and study it. He's going to cover you. He's going to be there for you to help you. Be determined to not separate from God. Romans 8:35-39. Concentrate on what God has given back to you when you're going through grief and not what you lost. 2 Samuel 12:23.
Amen.
Gain strength from weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9 and 10. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. This is God talking. This is in red. For my strength is made perfect in weakness. So do we understand God has us? He's right there. You just have to trust him. It's hard. I ain't saying to you, stand up and tell you, just be happy because you're going through. No, it's not easy. It's a process.
Amen.
But in that process, know that the Lord is there for you. Therefore, mostly gladly I'd rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I will have pleasure in my infirmities and reproach, in the needs, in the persecution and the distress of Christ's sake. For I am weak, then I'm strong. So even in that time when you're going through grief, you may think you're at your lowest point.
Right.
Lord, why this happened to me? Why I gotta go to court tomorrow? Why I'm in this situation? Why I'm going to probate? Why this lady doing this to me? Why my husband died? Why my father died? He's right there for you.
Yes, he is.
Philip 4:3. I can do all things. Philip 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
There's things there for us. We have God. Mourn for the mournful. John 11:13-35. Jesus wept. Romans 12:15. Rejoice in those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. 2 Corinthians 1:3-4. Blessed be the God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of the mercies, and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulations, that we may be able to confront those who are in their trouble, with confronting with which ourselves are confronted by God. There he is again. I don't know why we don't trust him.
Come on.
Confront them with hope when you're dealing with grief. Confront it with hope. 1 Thessalonians 4:13. But I do not want you to be ignorant, my brother, concerning those who have fallen asleep. Lest your sorrows and others will have no hope.
That's right.
Bury the burdens. Galatians 6:1-5. But last but not least, I think the most powerful one, because sometimes you always don't have your Bible. That's why you got to study so you memorize things that's going on. But it's something you can always do. You can pray for yourself. You can pray for someone else. Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything. I'm going to say it again. Do not be anxious about anything. Do not be stressed out on what tomorrow may not hold, that you in your mind you may not see.
Come on now.
But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving for requests, be known to God. So what he's asking you to do is tell him what you want.
That's right.
But my mother always tells me something. She thinks I'm not listening all the time. You got to be worthy of that. If you're not worthy of it, you can't expect it to happen. She don't think I'm listening, but I'm listening all the time. I'm going to give her that face. And she thinks this boy ain't listening. I ain't waiting 40, almost 50 years and still ain't listening. But I'm listening. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Pray without ceasing. Constantly pray. Throughout life, you can be praying with your eyes open. You can be praying when your boss is getting on your nerves. You can be praying when you're going through it. You can be praying when you're in front of your enemy.
That's right.
Because if you don't pray, I'm going to tell you I'm human. I'm going to sin. I ain't going to sin. I ain't sin right to you. That's why I got him, so I can come back and repent. Now, I'm not going to just outwardly sin. That we know that ain't right. But I am human. He knows that. But always pray. You always have that.
That's right.
Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your understanding, in your own knowledge, and he should direct your paths. I'm closing now. Not going to be long. The question I want to ask you today, are you trusting the Lord with your grief? Hits your door.
Yes.
Don't just say, think about it. Are you trusting God?
Well,
Because we got to. If you don't expect grief going to eat you up. I'm going to read it again. The question I'm asking you today, are you really trusting the Lord with grief hits your door? You have help. Reach out and ask for help. He's right there for you. And as a church, we have to be right there for each other during these times. Any man or woman wants to become a member of the church, there's some steps. You've heard the gospel, Romans 10, 14, 17. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, John 8, 24? All we need to do is to repent, Acts 2, 38. Confess, Romans 10, 9 through 10, and be baptized. Last but not least, live faithful, 2 Peter 1, 4 through 11.
amen.
Grief is a tough thing. It's a process. It's something you just can't get over. But my point, and I hope it was something that hit you guys, is that God is there always. You can lean on it, trust Him. As a church, we have to become stronger as far as reaching out to each other through those times.
Amen.
If you lost your father, you need to hear from me. If I know you lost your father. If you lost your mother, I need to talk to you. Because why? You've been through it. I can't tell you something I ain't been through. I ain't never been married, so I can't tell you how to do it.
Come on now.
I'll give you some bad information. It's the truth. So we have to reach out and do those things. Somebody can tell you how to, what to look for, but when you're going through grief, you need to be able to have your church to grab you, not run from you. If you know I'm struggling, don't run from me. Come grab me and hug me. Be there for me. If anybody's struggling with grief, you're more than welcome to come up and ask for prayer. You don't have to tell you what you're grieving on. I lost a job. My mother can tell you, and I'm candid. And I'll probably, Pastor probably can beat me up when you see this tape if you ever see it or listen to it. But I think in order to be a true Christian, you gotta know where I've heard that what my holes are. I can't run around like I'm perfect because I ain't. It's only one perfect being. When I lost my job at Rutgers, my mother tell you, I was done. At that time in my life, I was making $250,000. My mother didn't even know that. Child support was $2,500. They didn't bother because I could go get a custom-made suit. You couldn't tell me nothing. I had trucks, I had cars. At the time I was engaged, I was doing it. I'm living on the East Coast. Ain't nothing touching me.
Well, now.
That white man brought me in the office and said, son, here go your service package. No, I didn't bust my tail, running around New York, up and down the East Coast. I interviewed for some head coaching job. I wanted to be Division I head coach, but that wasn't a calling. I got my master's. And all of a sudden, this man give me $50,000 and say, all right, pack your bags and go home to your mom. That's what he said, basically.
Yeah.
Shut up, money. I couldn't tell. There was some things going on in the program that wasn't right. But I took the money because I'm stuck. Part of that was being foolish because I should have had more money in the bank than I had, but I was living. Living life. Came home, my mom moved me back, my stepdad moved me back. I'm out of it. I'm out of it. But the one thing I did do when I look back over the situation, you learn from your mistakes. I did go chasing God. My mom, God said, the time I was living there, you need to go around to Annapolis Church. And, you got to do something because I was at home. Everything I just read, I was doing. I was sleeping. I had a bad attitude. It was everybody's fault. That white man, my boss at the time was the black guy that's supposed to be looking out for me to help me get to the next step. I felt he turned on me. I was mad at everybody. This. I can't help my mother like I'm used to helping. It was a time my mother could tell you I would come home, fly to Detroit, and I had checks. So I would sign the checks. Just call me before y'all do something. I had it. It wasn't enough for me to say she needed $1,000. Go ahead, get it, Mom. I ain't got it no more.
Right.
I took pride in being able to take care of my mother. That was always my goal when I was doing those things that I was doing. I was able to provide for her, so she never had the need for anything. And that was taken away from me. She never did that hurt me that way. I was depressed. I was down. But God, she says, my mother, but God. Went back to the church, and things progressed. God has a way of humbling you and bringing you back up. He has a way of letting you know that He's in control and you're not. Our job is to accept that when He does that and learn from it and be submissive to God. We always talk about being able to be a submissive wife. We have to be submissive to God in the same tone. So that's my little small testimony. Grief can cause, it can be death, it can be experiences. We all go through it. I have a brother here that I know, I won't call his name. He's been going through some things. I'm kind of kicking myself and having a chance to really spend as much time as I want with him because I don't want him to get away from God because of chasing money. Because money's the root of all evil. We all want it. We need it. But that's something the devil puts in your mainstream to keep you wanting. What we have to do is maybe manage our money so we don't have to do those things and we can live a good life. But last but not least, we're going to get you guys out of here. If anybody needs prayer, you can stand to your feet. We'll ask for a song.